Okay. Sure.
Hello, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's event, Reopening the Arts Outside, the Joys and Challenges of Outdoor Programming. My name is Krista Bradley, and I am the Director of Programs and Resources at the Association of Performing Arts Professionals. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome our President and CEO, Lisa Richards-Toney, to welcome you personally and to say a few words. Lisa?
Yes, good afternoon, good day, good morning, wherever you may be in our world. Thank you, Krista, and hello, everyone. It's really an honor to be here today for this particular webinar. This is very exciting. Unfortunately, I'm not able to stay, but I did want to have a chance to just come on and let you know I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. I want to thank and acknowledge our staff, Krista and Caitlin, Jenny, and the rest of the team for all of their hard work to make today happen. And I also have the pleasure of thanking my predecessor, Mario Garcia Durham, who you are all very familiar with. So Mario leaves APAP and goes and makes a big vision for outdoor programming. How perfect is that? Just what we need and right on time. So Mario, it's so good to see you. Welcome and thank you so much for putting your energies back to APAP. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. So just a few housekeeping tips here. Closed captioning will appear automatically on your screen, as it already has. If you would like to disable the chat transcript, please click More on the bottom of the Zoom window and hide subtitle as indicated on the slide. And I just want to note that our screen right now is a screensaver, so we might need to just adjust that, Caitlin. APAP is located in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., on the ancestral lands of the Piscataway and the Anacostan people, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. I would like to pay my respect to the Piscataway and the Anacostan elders, both past and present. Today's event is held on the Zoom meeting platform. We ask that you please keep your audio muted for the duration of the event, unless asked to unmute by one of the panelists. If you have questions for any of our panelists, please place them in the Zoom chat box, and we'll address them as many questions as we can. APAP welcomes the open exchange of ideas at all of our events. The views expressed by speakers or participants in this webinar are those of the speaker or participant and not necessarily of APAP. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mario Garcia Durham and thank Mario and the Outdoor Arts Group for their wonderful partnership. The Outdoor Arts Group is dedicated to promoting, supporting, and advancing the work of outdoor arts presenters. Mario, good to see you, and thanks so much for helping us create this event.
Thank you, Krista. Can you all hear me? Good. So hello, everyone. It's nice to be with you all again, even if it's virtually. And I know that in-person meetings are going to take place at some point soon. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I just want to thank you all for joining us. And thanks again to APAP, for Jenny, Sarah, Caitlin, Krista, and all of the folks there, as well as Lisa, who I'm so happy is leading the organization. I also want to thank Erica Elliott, Linda Lucero, Suzanne Tice, Beth McMillan, Bruce Labadie, Monique Martin, and Paul Arbor, who are part of the Outdoor Arts Group, and I appreciate all their work. In my mind, the work of outdoor arts presenters has never been more important. So thank you again for your interest in this field and in your work. And if you have questions for our group, please contact me and/or APAP. So at this point, I would like to introduce, it's a privilege to introduce our discussion moderator. Many of you know her. Her name is Monique Martin. She's a propagator of art, culture, and ideas. Monique brings her passion and experience in community building through the arts to elevate and to instigate. She brought her vision and expertise to City Parks Foundation from 2007 to 2017 as programming director, where she presented relevant, fresh, and thoughtful programming to New York City communities annually in Central Park and 50 parks citywide, presenting over 1,200 multi-genre programs, reaching audiences of over 600,000 people. So again, we are very, very, very privileged to have Monique as our moderator. And at this point, I would like to turn it over to you, Monique. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mario. And thank you, APAP, for providing this space for us to have another discussion around outdoor arts and presenting. I know that we all are excited and anxious to connect with our audiences and to connect with our communities and our artists and to present our artists. So we've gathered some wonderful colleagues from the field from across the country. And they have a variety of work that they've been doing that's really exciting, of connecting safely. So we want to share their expertise with you all today. And the panelists include Laura Quinlan, who is the programming director of the Rhythm Foundation in Miami, Florida. James Carter, the programming and operations manager for Ann Arbor Summer Festival in Michigan. And Robin Schatell, who was the co-founder and producer of OpenCultureWORKS, a new organization here in New York City. So thank you all for coming this afternoon to bring your expertise and to share with us in the field. And in the interest of time, I'm going to shoot over to Laura and have you share with us what's going on in Miami.
Hi. Good afternoon. Let's see, am I here? Okay. I'm Laura Quinlan, Program and Finance Director for the Rhythm Foundation in Miami Beach, Florida. We run the North Beach Bandshell for the city of Miami Beach. It's an open air venue, normally at 1,400 capacity. We have a management agreement that extends through 2028. We closed for COVID in March of 2020, but we're able to pivot to live stream concert production immediately with a borrowed Sling studio. We had actually been live streaming for a few months prior to COVID, because we had a core member of our team was in Peru being treated for cancer, and we were sending the videos to him so that he knew we were missing him. And so when COVID hit, we were ready to go because we had made all our mistakes on poor Luis. We opened back up to in-person live events in January 2021 at a 25% capacity, currently set at 330, and we've been busier than ever. We are in a state which is wide open, but we are fortunate to have, can you guys hear me? We're setting up for an event actually right now. I might need to go back in the office. We are in a state that's wide open, but we're in a county and a city with more responsible governance. So our reopening plans are overseen by clearer heads.
Monique, I think we should if we can jump to another panelist, maybe.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest what's so exciting.
Live performance.
I'm just so excited to hear live music.
Here.
But Laura is going to move to another location, so we don't get seduced by the sound check. I know that I certainly did. So if James, if we could move to you and you could talk about what's going on at the Ann Arbor Summer Festival there in Michigan, and then we'll come back to Laura.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Monique. I really appreciate it. Speaking from the unceded territory, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and the Potawatomi, the Anishinaabe people of the Council of the Three Fires, otherwise known as Ann Arbor, Michigan. And we are, I'm going to show this real quick. Let's see here. I hope this doesn't make anyone too anxious or sad, but this is just a little bit of taste of what we do. So we're an outdoor-indoor festival that happens every year. We present at the Power Center for the Performing Arts and Hill Auditorium. We do between 6 and 8 indoor shows every year. Those are ticketed shows. But the primary part of our festival is this beautiful outdoor green that we have called Ingalls Mall, and it's part of the University of Michigan campus. And the crux of our festival takes place over the course of 21 days in June, and we have about 80,000 people who come through to the festival every year, anywhere between 1,000 and 7,000 people on any given night. About 50% of our programming is music. About 30% of our programming lies in the education world, whether it's adult education, youth activities, kids activities, and or a retreat center that has yoga, tai chi, and Zumba and fun activities like that. And then the rest of our performing arts is in the traditional sort of setting of dance, theater, and large scale spectacle and circus that we're really very proud of. Last year, obviously, as everything else, we had to cancel it. And so in 2020, we adapted to have about 90% of our digital streaming, of all the things that I just said. We decided, well, we're just going to bring it over to streaming social media. And then about 10% of it was in person. So about, I guess it was the end of July into August, we were able to gather 100 people in person and have very small concerts in comparison to what we typically do. But it was a lot of fun to work for the moment and adapt for the moment and create safety plans for COVID. And the other thing that we did was we offered live performances that were these mini concerts where artists would go to people's front yards, and you could pay for an artist to show up to your front yard or your front sidewalk, and 100% of the proceeds went directly to the artists. We didn't take anything off the top for that, and we were really excited that we were able to offer free programming and paid programming that specifically focused on supporting artists last year. The rest of the stuff was digital, and we had these art experiences that we had collaborative people from the community sharing their quarantine confessions, kids from the community creating kooky creatures that were illustrations. And then we did these story walks and music hikes where we took all of the musicians that we had programmed for the season and we overlaid them on an app to specific hikes in and around Ann Arbor. There's over 130 parks in the Ann Arbor area. And so it was really great to take advantage of the needing to be alone, but enjoying really beautiful music while you're taking these walks. And then the downtown story walk, we were able to commission a playwright to have these monologues that went to 5 different locations in the downtown area. And like everybody else and their mother, we launched a podcast last year. And that was very successful, and we're going to do that again this year. So talking about 2021, just how we're sort of moving forward, and we're going to move there very quickly because we're up in June. We are primarily on the University of Michigan campus, and the university is not ready to allow community oriented events to happen. They're focused primarily on having student events and only supporting student events. We are a collaboration between the city of Ann Arbor and the University of Michigan. We were founded in 1984 as an entity that is a affiliate of the university, but also has representatives on our board from both the city and the university. So there's like a really great cross-pollination between these two communities. And it's one of the sort of few times in the year that they kind of come together in a very unique way. They're sort of like separated during the school year, but June hits and it's a really fun time. And so what we decided to do this year is, since the University of Michigan's not allowing it, and we didn't think it was very safe considering we're currently at a 300-person cap, I think, in Michigan for outdoor events. We're going to do pop-up performances. So we're very committed to the idea of having 90% of our programming be in person as much as we could this year, and really moving away from the digital. And I think that that's the really great part about outdoor programming, is that, you know, we have the opportunity that indoor venues are having struggles with right now. The one thing I'll say is that the other thing about Michigan venues is that we are allowed, if you're an outdoor entertainment venue, you can have up to 1,000 people at an outdoor event if your venue is ratio of like a third. So if you're a 3,000 person outdoor venue, then you can have up to 1,000 people. So we're looking to do some outdoor concerts this year that are going to be scaled from hopefully as high as 500 and down to as low as 5 people in your front yard with this Tiny Tops event that we are extending to do this year. So let me just talk a little bit about this. Our brand new series that we're actually kind of modeling on New York Philharmonic's mobile bandwagon that they did this last fall in I think it was in September and October. They had a truck that they brand wrapped it, and then they had opera singers and classical musicians perform in different parts of Manhattan. Well, it was a good idea. So we're going to do a similar thing. Toyota is letting us have a Tundra for the season, and we're going to wrap it with a brand new branding. We're actually relaunching a brand in May, and we're very excited about that. We're going to have 10 concerts in Ann Arbor and 10 in the Ypsilanti area. And if you're not familiar with this area, Ypsilanti is the sort of sister city, or the city is just right next to Ann Arbor. And they're very different. Our county of Washtenaw County is the 8th most disparate county in the United States as far as economic differences. And so you have very, very poor, poverty-stricken people, and then you have very rich people who live here as well. And I think that we've been really looking at Ypsilanti for the last couple of years as an opportunity for us to get over to, and we had some plans last year to bring some pieces to Ypsilanti, which is more economically depressed, and that obviously got blown up. But we are very excited this year that we're going to be offering 10 concerts in that area, and we partnered with lots of different entities and organizations. And I think that that's going to be my theme of this presentation, is partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. When you're coming to like a crossroads like we are right now, and I wonder if other presenters have similar stories, that the way that we're getting through this is that we're strapping our rafts together and making sure that we all survive, whether we're a film organization, a dance presenter, or an arts, visual arts presenter. We've all found really great ways to work together. And so in addition to that, we found help with the Ann Arbor Housing Commission to present in 5 affordable housing locations. We're working with the Ypsilanti Community Schools to offer meals to different neighborhoods, to youth that are in need. And we're also working with Peace Neighborhood Center and the Community Action Network, which also work with these affordable housing locations. So the environment has really allowed us to sort of put a stake in the ground and do things that we've been trying to talk about doing for quite some time now as an organization. So we're very excited about that. And then the second part of Live Here Now, I already mentioned, we're going to be doing these larger events with about 300 to 500 people, and we'll be doing a screening of movies. Last year we did these concerts, and we were able to screen The Wiz in a park where we'll return to this year. Excuse me, I got this thing in my throat today. This is a picture of what Tiny Tops looked like last year, and we were really excited to have about 8 artists last year. This year we're going to have about 25 artists going out, and we're looking to have nearly 200 concerts over the month of June. We have this really great artist here in town called David Zinn. If you haven't checked him out, go to Instagram and look at David's work. It's pretty remarkable. We're very fortunate that he lives here and is a friend of the festival. We're going to do a second year of Sidewalk Chalk Day. It was a really safe and easy thing for people to do. And we partnered with the Arbor District Library, which is a really wonderful partner of ours, to present these concerts and also to present the Sidewalk Chalk Day. So this year, we're going to be working with a lot of different entities to have Sidewalk Chalk teams. And then David Zinn's going to be going around town creating his artwork in different locations near the different teams. So we're very excited about this. Now, another thing, like I said, partnerships. We're working with a couple partners that we've worked with in the past, but we've really deepened those partnerships. The University of Michigan Museum of Art, we're working on 2 different projects that are both theatrical experiences. One is a digital live stream collaboration with a local musician and New York City theater artist. Excuse me. And then the other is a virtual theatrical experience, which will be, it's an experience that happens over the telephone. So we're excited to be doing this type of partnership. And then we're also going to be working with the district library to present an actorless theatrical event where you go into a room and you go through a narrative experience on your own. That's sort of our season in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any more questions, but it'll give you, that gives you an overview of where we were and what we typically do, and then how we have adapted over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, James. What exciting programs you're doing. I love so much about what you've shared and how you've been able to make a shift from large scale to the concerts in the front yard. And partnership. If we can't say that enough this afternoon, as we look at how to partner with our municipalities, how we partner with other organizations, community-based organizations, is really key. I want to remind everyone to please put your questions in the chat so that at the end of the 3 colleagues that are speaking today, we'll be able to address your questions. You gave us such a thorough overview of what you're doing there in Michigan, James, at Ann Arbor. I wanted to ask you about the hikes and the app that was created. How did you monetize that? Was that free for users, and will you continue to use that app?
Yeah, so it was a free app. It's an open source. Well, it's not open source, but it's a free app to download. And I can add that to the chat here in a bit, a link if anybody's interested. What it allows you to do is it allows you to take audio and tag it to specific locations. So it's geotagged, so you have to be in that location to listen to it. And we aren't planning on doing that this year. We did talk about potentially partnering with a youth organization that we work with and having some youth music presented. And so that could happen a little bit later this year. But if you go to our website, a2sf.org, and look up music hikes or story walks, I'll try to add that into the link as well. You can see how we packaged it and what it all looked like. But it was really a lot of fun.
Great. And can you share with us quickly how were you able to maintain the 100 capacity and not have folks who are so anxious to gather and to be with each other and to experience the art and culture?
Sure. The other thing you asked was that free? And yes, it was a free event. The music hikes and story walks. We did that in partnership with the library as well, and they helped us finance that. So that was a really great partnership. As far as what was your question, Monique?
My question was, how were you able to maintain the 100
Oh,
person
yeah, of
capacity?
course. So it was an RSVP type of event, and you had to enter all of your information, and then when you showed up, we had it already on site. You had to do temperature taking, and we also made sure that there was contact tracing, right? And then there was stanchions around the outside. It wasn't a really hard perimeter, but we had people standing along the outside. But if you had an RSVP for the event, you couldn't come. So that's basically. And I will say that we did a pretty extensive safety plan that if anybody's interested in, I can share that as well. There's a PDF of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, James. If you all have any questions about any of the programs that James talked about, please drop them in the chat. We also have his website for the festival so that you can go to the website and learn more. And now we'd like to bring back Laura Quinlan from the Rhythm Foundation in Miami, Florida. Thank you, James. And now let's welcome Laura.
Hi, I'm so sorry about that. I was one of the dangers of outdoor work is you never know what you're going to get to. So
we were all excited to hear a sound check. So thank you for finding a quiet place and welcome back.
Yes, I'm all tucked away in my office now. I was really looking forward to showing off my beautiful venue. I have a few photos I was going to share. Caitlin, you got my photos? Okay, the first one is how the venue looks when it's fully open. This is our beautiful new all-weather canopy that got installed in February 2020, just in time to close. This is Snarky Puppy's Ground Up Music Festival, which takes place in February over 3 weeks and is a highlight for us for our programming season. I hope that it comes back again soon. And look at all those people breathing each other's air. How about that? Old days. That's February 2020. I have another photo. There's 3 photos. I have another photo. This is how we've set up now for social distance pod style seating. Our 1,400 capacity venue is cut to 330. So we set up the seats 6 feet apart and everybody feels really comfortable. And so far it's been going really fantastic. And then there's another photo I have, which is a live event with the people sitting in the pod seating. This is one of our monthly North Beach social shows, which we have a limited live in-person audience. We do a live stream, and we also turn it into a variety TV show for the City of Miami Beach TV channel. And those are my photos of my venue. I also sent over a 1-minute recap video of a program that we did last weekend with New Deco Ensemble, who is one of Miami's cultural treasures. They are an orchestra for the 21st century. They did a program with Richard Bona, and they sent over a little 1-minute recap. Here it is. Richard Bona is our new neighbor. He lives in North Beach, close to our venue. New Deca will be back at the venue. They've moved their whole season here. They'll be back in May with guests Corey Henry and Tank and the Bangas. It is I was shaken by how overwhelmed I was to hear an orchestra this year more than ever. And when one is programming outdoors, there are so many variables that you can't control. So you absolutely need to tie your rafts together. You absolutely need partners. You need to share the risk and the reward with institutions, partners, people, funders, networks, and it just makes it's really impossible to do outdoor programming on your own because you can't control the environment.
Laura, thank you for that. Can you talk a little bit about how you were able to secure the current partners that you have? Are they new? Are they longstanding partners? And then can you also talk about your safety protocols? You've reduced the capacity. How are you able to get all 300 people in? I think that was a number that you stated, yes, in a timely manner.
Much of our safety protocol, our safety protocols are overseen by our city and county, who are stricter than our state of governor. We rapid test everybody who comes backstage and on stage, and we've been doing that all year. It is not a perfect solution, but it is a tool. We also have a mask mandate for backstage and on stage. We participated in the race to trace. We do a temperature check for the audience. We have the seats 6 feet apart. We are open air. We have mask mandate for the audience. So far, most of my team has managed to avoid catching COVID all year, and we have been really busy. We've increased cleaning. We've instituted touchless everything, touchless concessions, ordering via an app on your phone. I personally find the temperature check to be security theater. I believe being outdoors, mask mandate, and keeping the seats apart is what's been keeping our audience safe and feeling safe. As well, many people in Miami have been lucky to have been vaccinated.
When you talk about the safety protocols, that's done by the city. And this is a question for not only for you, Laura, but also James and Robin. Is there an outside entity? So you're saying that the city and state provide that. So your staff is not responsible for conducting the temperature checks.
Oh no, our staff is. We've gone through COVID protocol training, and we have 2 people who are certified. Actually, they participated in the Los Angeles County Film Program's COVID certification, but we have 2 people who are COVID certified managers. We have our security guards walk around with signs that say, put your mask on. We have a 0 tolerance for people taking the mask off. We've had to kick a few people out. But up until now, people have been so grateful to come back that they've behaved very well. Who knows how it will continue.
And with your live streaming, did you monetize that, or was that offered to your audiences for free?
Most of it has been offered for free. New Deco charges a $15 ticket, but we have been doing the live streaming mostly for free. We've been the recipient of a lot of support via our city, our county, some of our local foundations, PPP funding, and we've been able to purvey that into programming all year. That money has all gone back directly into our cultural ecosystem to support our tech team, local artists, our venue staff. I'm immensely grateful. It's definitely been, there's been so many things to be grateful for. We haven't had such huge success with monetizing the live streams. It's really been more a service just to keep work. We were able to tap into the City of Miami Beach's Community Benefit Fund, which is a pot of money that the city was sitting on to provide access to some of our larger performing arts centers for cultural groups. And they opened that up to us this year. They opened that up to us this year, which we were able to use to welcome 20 cultural groups to use the venue and have all their costs covered. So, you know, I recommend to people, think outside the box. A lot of cities and municipalities have funds tucked away that are not being used. This is that rainy day. Open those coffers up, share that money, just like the foundations have, many of them have committed to opening up funding. It is needed now. Artists need that support. The tech people need that support. And our city responded to this plea. I'm immensely grateful to the city. So today we have a film festival coming in. Their costs are covered by this community benefit fund. Cities have a lot of rainy day funds, and we were very lucky to be able to tap into ours and push that money out into our cultural ecosystem.
Thank you. There are questions coming in on the chat, which we'll bring back after when we bring you all three back in the interest of time. Thank you so much, Laura, for sharing with us the exciting work and that we got to see two different locations in your festival. So we're now going to bring Robin Schatell, who was the co-founder and producer of a new initiative here in New York City called OpenCultureWORKS. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Monique. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm going to share my screen. Hope I do this right. And I have a presentation. Let me know when it's there. Okay, tell me if you're seeing it.
Yep, we're seeing it, Robin.
So yes, as Monique said, OpenCultureWORKS, it's brand new. We're really a collective, I guess, a group of producers and production managers who came together in January, in sort of a response to COVID, to really partner with artists and arts groups, cultural institutions, to bring live performing arts events and programs to public spaces, to streets and parks and plazas. We don't have a venue and we're not a festival like my co-panelists, which, I've worked and I've done that. I've done festival outdoor work. I did run a festival in a park, actually, that had a stage, but we are working in the public realm. And I was looking up that definition of what the public realm is, and it's really publicly owned spaces that don't belong to anyone. They belong to everyone, easily accessible. And there's a whole list here, as you can see, of what that is. Public transport systems and buildings as well. But we are focusing really on the outdoors, and it's really in response to COVID. And what we came together, to really, out of a desire to help ensure that this open culture program that the city launched in February was going to run smoothly. And it's a piece of legislation that was actually put through by the city council here that would create a special permit for artists and arts groups to apply to do public programming of arts programming in certain designated city streets that are called open culture streets. And there's some other programs like that started here. I'm sure there are some in other cities. Open Streets was a way to, in the beginning of COVID, to take cars off of streets so there'd be more room for pedestrians and people to walk. Open Restaurants, it gave the restaurants an opportunity to set up tables outside on the streets, and many of them have built little sheds, which are almost like restaurants, structures outside. So, there was really a big push by the cultural community, to say, hey, what about us? And so it's an initiative that was put through by the chair of the city council here, the arts committee, and putting legislation through is not easy. And so what they kept saying was, one-stop shopping for artists now. Here's a permit, no problem. You can get a permit and perform in the street. But here's a list of questions that are already coming up on their website, and this is just half of the questions. So nothing is ever one-stop shopping. And I've worked with the Street Activity Permit Office for over 20 years on a festival here that's really a line item in the city's budget, Museum Mall Festival, and it was never easy. It's never easy. And so, as a producer, I kept saying, I want to help. And my fellow partners, my production managers and other partners also felt the same way. So we really came together because we felt like there's a need for high quality support, high quality production and producing support for artists and arts groups to work outdoors. We work in all 5 boroughs of New York City to help these groups mount their work. And we really are focusing on the sort of independent artists we call the self-producing artist or small arts group or not-for-profit. Those organizations and groups that don't have the means or resources to produce outdoors or don't even know what it means to be in a public space. Our goals are pretty, they're basic. We want to be as low cost or no cost as possible. We want to help turn streets into safe, secure venues. Think of them as a black box without any walls, right? How do you make a street secure, and how do you turn it into a venue or even a public plaza or a piece of a park? And really also want to help, the creative vision, for these things, come to realization as producers. We kind of have 3 elements of what we do. We consult, we production manage, and we produce. We begin with conversations. We're not just a production company where we want to get paid for our services and that's it. We provide a sound system. We really are involved in the process, and we begin sort of with conversations, asking artists what they want and what they're trying to do, and arts groups what they want and what they're trying to do, and really help them sort of envision what it might mean from that. I have to do my dance piece outside to what does it actually mean to put that on the street or in a public space. And then of course we also do, then we go into production mode, logistics and mapping, event production. There's site maps, backstage and areas set up. It's all thinking about the COVID regulations, the compliance of that. When we started this 2 months ago, 50 people were allowed to gather, and now it's 200 people are allowed to gather. And then, we also we can help with staffing and managing load in a lot. We can actually run the events. And as I said earlier, we're also curators and programmers, and we love to connect people together through cultural experiences. And so we do that as well. And the biggest thing I think that we bring to this, aside from just, our experience with producing and production managing outdoors, is, our wisdom of what it means to be outside, as Laura was saying, words of wisdom, it's the public realm. You cannot control these environments no matter what you do. It's even I would say, a festival like yours, James, where you have a theater space on the university's campus is somewhat more controllable than even a street or a plaza. What if it rains? What if the planes are flying over your head? What if the birds attack your audience? So I'm kind of making fun a little bit of this, but these are some of the challenges, and these are just, simple things. And I did work on a dance piece once where the drunken man joined it. Okay, that was interesting, and really no matter what you do when you're in someone else's living room, if so to speak, a street or public plaza, they're going to have people that support you. You're going to have your detractors. And I did a festival many years ago that an outdoor concert series that was on the river in Manhattan in a park that was divided by a highway that was very noisy, but there was always that one woman who thought everything was too loud, right? So there's always going to be those things. And then, you just can't stop people. But really, we really believe that the arts are vital and a healthy part of, and are a vital and, important part of a healthy society. That's how we, that's our vision, I guess. That's our what motivates us. And we really, have been nurturing, the creative process of artists for years, all of us collectively. And, and we really value as public producers in the public realm, inclusion, diversity, and accessibility. And that's really for me, I'll speak for myself, as well as some of my partners, that's what's exciting about this kind of work, that going into communities means you're bringing the art to communities, or you're working within a community with their artists on a local level. And it's really about trying to really open that up for everyone, and it's for everyone. And partnership, key. You cannot work alone. We can't work alone. We don't work alone. And, we collaborate with, a wide range of community partners and stakeholders, and, a whole list. I have a whole list here with other performing arts venues and arts councils, civic groups, city councils, local businesses, bids, advocacy organizations, schools, libraries, the police, key partners, restaurants, tenant associations, and community boards. These are just a few of the partners that we work with when we're doing this kind of thing. And I just want to show you, we did a launch weekend here in New York. You know, it's been a year. There's an organization here called Culture at 3. That's, I don't know if some of you might are on that or participate, but it's really a network of over 150 nonprofit arts organizations and cultural producers who've been coming together every day for a year to talk about, you know, how to support each other in the arts. And and out of that, you know, grew sort of the idea to do this open culture program. But this is an open culture street in the Bronx. This is 140th Street in the East Bronx in the Mott Haven neighborhood. And what I'm saying was, we, through this Culture at 3 group, we launched a weekend in all 5 boroughs. There was an event in all 5 boroughs, March 18th, that sort of announced open culture as a program. This street on the right, you'll see a library. There's a little brownstone. That's an organization called ID Studio. The next building on the right there is Bronx Art Center. It's an art gallery and an art center. That building with the blue is a community health center. On the left is a school. Behind us on the street, it's a landmark historic block of old brownstones, and to the front that's a public housing project. So it's an interesting street, and this is really one of the lucky streets, I say, because it has 2 arts organizations that can supply power and help out with doing something on the street. So, you know, this is very simple. This is the first thing we did, very low key. You know, you can see our little circles. We were measuring them, you know, 6 feet apart. So people might stand in a circle. We had a few chairs out. That's our little, we towed as many cars as we could. They don't all get towed. That's a whole nother thing I'll talk about. We actually, there were 3 partners in this: the Bronx Arts and Dance organization that's run by Arthur Villas, the ID Studio Theater helped with this, and the Bronx Art Center. So, you know, it took 3, even though this was a very small event, 3 cultural partners to pull it off. And I think we had a staff of like 8 just to make this happen, which was very small, from putting up signage to putting in the circles to taping off the street, because we had to keep, you know, you're supposed to keep your performance area with only 50 people total. And you know, here we are having our safe COVID distant production meeting right before. This is my COVID table person. You know, we did set up a whole COVID table where we signed people in so we could do COVID tracing. We had hand sanitizers, we had masks, we had signs everywhere about this in Spanish and in English. And then we had our performances. Now, the thing also we couldn't control was the weather. So it was 32 degrees that day. So we didn't get a big crowd, but, you know, we had an incredible event. And the joys, I know this topic is, you know, challenges and joys of outdoor performing, but this is Daniel Fetakua, who works on the street in that little brownstone. He has a dance company, and I met him for the first time, and he was a Limon dancer for 10 years, and maybe many of you might have presented him. So those are the kind of joys of doing this work and getting to meet those people. We also, this is our team, and Monique is part of our team. Yeah, I convinced her, I talked to her, I said, Monique, I need you to work with us. You're incredible outdoors. And so we have, you know, Janet Clancy, Will, and Roderick are our sort of production managers with extensive experience, you know, staging, rigging, lighting design, sound design, you know, working outdoors. Ethan Lurcher ran Bryant Park here in New York for over 20 years of programming, and myself. We also put together a handbook, like a best practices handbook. So that's us, that's our work. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Robin. I encourage you all to look at the OpenCultureWORKS website, because there's some wonderful tools. There's a beautiful map that was created looking at all 5 boroughs of the open culture streets. And I really believe that this model can be replicated in other cities. And one of the points that Laura brought up around partnerships of looking beyond the arts sector for partners as well. We know that with different municipalities. James has a Toyota that has the truck that's being wrapped for performances that will travel throughout communities. So really thinking broadly about who you're connecting your rafts to and with. I did want you, Robin, to just quickly talk about permitting. 2 quick questions for you. One is permitting. You need a permit. Who doesn't need a permit? Who does need a permit? Where do you get a permit from? And also, who has responded to this Open Culture Works so far? Is it small arts organizations or individual artists?
Sure. So yeah, anytime you want to do anything in the public space in New York City, and in each public space is owned by a different agency, and if any, and you have to get a permit for that. You have to get permission. And so streets and plazas are controlled by the Department of Transportation. Parks are run by parks. And there are different levels in all of those. There's dozens of kinds of permits one can get, and they all have restrictions, and sometimes they're 25, 30 days out. You have to apply. When I did Museum Mile Festival, it was considered a 20 block long festival on Fifth Avenue that closed to traffic for all the 9 museums along Museum Mile. It was considered a block party, and I had to apply for that permit in December for the event in June. So what the city did with this open culture permit, which is what we're focusing on, is come up with a new way to do things and make it as easy as possible. So yes, so the open culture permit, and the difference between it and all the others is that artists and arts groups can charge admission. That the city was thinking that artists need to make money, they can charge admission. So that is a caveat. And the other caveat is that you can say there's a hardship for your company, you don't have to have liability insurance, which everyone has to get $1 million liability insurance policy if you're doing anything outdoors with the city. So the permits are through an organization called SAPO, Street Activity Permit Office. They control all the permits for all those outdoor spaces, even if they're owned by the DOT, except for parks. Parks has its own permitting process. So for open culture, there are requirements, and the requirements are you have to be an arts organization or a venue. A venue would be, the definition, a space that presents performing artists. An arts organization, which is something that we really fought hard not to, we fought hard for this. A bunch of us, put together a working group to fight hard to fight for certain things in this permit, is that you have to be funded by the Department of Cultural Affairs. So right off the bat, that leaves, off a huge percentage of the arts population in New York City, mostly the cultural, local arts groups. So the caveat was, okay, so if you don't have the funding by the Department of Cultural Affairs, and you basically show proof of your funding, you have to show that you have a letter from them, you can get a sponsor to sponsor your permit. So you can get another not-for-profit or City Arts Council, whomever gets funding from the DCLA to be your permit sponsor. And we're working on that now, actually. We're actually fiscally sponsored by an organization called Go Productions, who is not a 501, not-for-profit, and we're trying to work with them to be this permit sponsor for artists and arts organizations who are not funded by the DCLA. So that's one thing. So there's all these rules of who gets to qualify. And you had asked me another question, Monique, the permitting. And then on top of that, you have to get a sound permit. So we tried very hard for the city to have it be one and the same while you get the permit, to make this one-stop shopping for an artist or arts group, because to get a sound permit in New York City, those are held by the police precincts. And it really depends on the politics of your particular neighborhood or community or relationship with that police precinct, the community affairs officer. The permit for open culture is $20. Originally, the city wanted to say an artist can only get a permit for one day, 4 times though, but 1 day only on a particular location. And we kept saying, well, in the arts, 1 day is not enough. If we're thinking of this as to replace or be a temporary replacement for an artist season in a side venue, they need 3 or 4 days on that street. We finally got them to do that at $20, but you have to get a sound permit, and those cost $45, and you have to physically go to the police department. So there's all these steps that we're trying to help these groups do. And there's all kinds of rules about fire lanes, 15-foot fire lanes outside on a New York City street that's only 30 feet wide. When you do the math, it doesn't leave you a whole lot of room to do your performance. And then if you want to have 200 people, how do you space them out? And so there's all those kinds of things we're figuring out. And as far as COVID, and I don't know if I'm answering all your questions, but please feel free to ask me again. As far as COVID, we haven't yet done an event in the street with 200 people, and I'm not really sure how that's going to happen.
Thank you. I want to, the other question I had for you, and I'd like to bring back James and Laura for our last section of this conversation around outdoor presenting for Q&A. And so this is the time that we are looking in the chat. And if I've missed anything, Caitlin, please let me know to grab the questions from the chat. But also, Robin, as James and Laura are coming in, who has been responding to the Open Culture Works? Has it been primarily artists or arts organizations? And do you know why? And is there a way to get more artists engaged in applying for the permits?
You know, it's really been, you know, we've set ourselves up in sort of two ways. We do have this sort of fee model where you contact us, and those have been what we're calling the self-produced artists, mostly artists or small arts performing groups, dance companies or dancers or theater artists. So it's been mostly that, you know, and we really wanted, and that's one side of it. That's really who I think is going after this. And we're trying very hard to work with institutions who want to do their workouts outdoors, but there is a focus still on, you know, we'll wait till our venue opens. So I would have to say right now we're getting a lot of those small, you know, independent companies and independent artists wanting to produce their work. At the same time, we are part of a consortium. We were part of a consortium of organizations who are doing work in public spaces and parks and plazas that the City Parks Foundation is sort of umbrellaing, that we got funded from the New York Community Trust, and that would be able to provide our services for free. Again, you know, we're going to be doing more partnership work with that, more organizational outreach for those events, because that's a sort of different setup. But yeah, it's been mostly, you know, the independents, you know, it's what we call self-producing artists.
Great, thank you. And for everyone, City Parks Foundation is the producer of Summer Stage. So if you hear those two names, they are connected. Laura and James, you have control over your venues. So what's the permitting process for any individual arts organization or artist that might want to produce or to collaborate with you? What's the permitting process that's needed for your venues?
Within our venue is the only space within the city of Miami Beach that amplified music is available to take place without a permit. And our city's permitting process is arduous and Byzantine. So I'm very happy to be able to welcome people into the band shell. And we've kind of bumped out the space a little bit. So we work very closely. We're very much tied to our municipality. So we make sure to give them the messaging to make sure that they're valuing the work that we're doing. You know, there's lobbying that goes on all the time to make sure that they're, you know, that we're meeting metrics, that we're giving them numbers, that we're giving them positive, you know, language about what's happening within our venue. Because we don't ever want to lose that. We don't want to have to start going into permitting. Permitting is, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That being said, we are within a city park, and sometimes we need that larger footprint. So it's, you know, it is an option to expand the footprint and get those special events permits. But we try to avoid that as much as possible.
And James, what do you have to navigate?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we're sort of a partnership between the University of Michigan and the city of Ann Arbor. And so we have just sort of a general permit form that we have to fill out every year for each one of those entities, because we actually cross both properties. So some of it takes place on city property, some of it's on the university. And generally speaking, with the university every year, we have to sit down and tell them all the crazy ideas that we have. We have an aerialist that's going to come out of the clock tower and do something down the side of it, and then go across it. And they're like, okay, so what are your safety measures? And so it's just usually it's a formality, but sometimes they want us to do a few more things. The interesting thing I'll say about the state of Michigan, and I think this is just something that is different from state to state and municipality to municipality, is we have been written into the state liquor laws because of nonprofits in the state of Michigan can only have, I think it's 3 or 4 days of alcohol sales in a given year. And we have 21 days. And because we founded in '84, we were grandfathered into that. And we are literally written in the Ann Arbor Summer Festival can have 21 days. And I have to, every year when I apply for a liquor license, it says, I say, hey, reference this thing way down deep in the code, liquor board, and we get it every year. So there's nothing wrong with that. One thing I wanted to just go back to is something that Laura had said earlier, that we're hitting a lot more this year because we're talking about larger events with COVID, is that your municipality, the county, and the state are all going to have 3 different things, and they're trying to work together, and they're very disparate. And I can only imagine, Laura, yours is much more sort of mindful in the city, and then the statewide it's not. Our state is trying to be as mindful as possible, but it's like, who is talking to who? So I think that if you're going to be doing something outdoors this summer specifically, it's really important to understand how those 3 entities are talking to each other.
Yeah, we have that here too, so the state is regulating the number of people that can gather, right? And part of what we're up against is, now they've lifted that to 200, but you can't put a stage in and amplify a stage because they fear it's going to draw too many people. So we're running into a lot of that. Well, what do you do then if you want to put a stage on? How do you elevate your performers on the street, or how do you put something in for a dance company? Those kinds of things. I also want to say, as far as the permit, not owning the streets, have it they're city-owned public streets. There are so many rules about what can happen and not happen that you guys probably don't have to worry about. So, for example, there can be no selling of any merchandise. So if a musician or a group has T-shirts or CDs, you can't sell them, because if you start selling things, then you have to now deal with the revenue department, and you have to do a whole revenue thing. And so you can't, no food either, because if you start wanting to have food, then you have to, that's a health department certificate, and it becomes a whole nother structure within a permit. So, what we're finding is like, okay, something's really interesting. It's like, we're already finding like, how do you get around that? So the musician leaves that performance area, goes around the corner and sells his or her CDs, how do you even get around, the restrictions of 200 people? How do you even manage that? You could say, okay, your performance area is 20 feet by 20 feet, and everybody outside of that is not your audience. So that could be just anyone. It's interesting that passersby and the public can't be prevented from walking through your street, but they're not considered an audience. So there's all kinds of things we're already looking at. But it's sad, because I've had a lot of conversations with musicians who want to sell CDs. It's just what they do, right? So as an example of some of the strictures we have.
That's a good point, especially when we know that our artists have been suffering financially over this last year. So, those $10, $15, $20 CDs make a big difference, or T-shirts. But I like your workaround. We'll leave it there in terms of going around the corner. One point that I wanted to bring up, I don't know who brought it up. It might have been you, Robin, looking at all of the different organizations that you can interface with for outdoor presenting, and bike lanes was a beginning with open streets. So now open streets evolved to open culture. And when you think about the city, having those relationships, we're talking about relationships and collaborations. I would just encourage everyone to go to your local precinct and meet your community affairs person. That's a person who you get the permit from. And I have a million stories about sitting in the community affairs office talking about a hip hop artist or a jazz artist or a pop artist, and they want to know, but they're not really informed about what you're doing, but you need that permit. So you have to foster that relationship. And when you begin the relationship, then sometimes it depends on the officer. There could be a challenge around it. And then you have the relationship. And so then the next year and the next year, they say, okay, what do you have this year? Okay, you have, as James said, you have an aerialist, you have a jazz band, you have mariachi, you have ballet, whatever. Okay, check. Here's your permit. So the relationships are really key. And also each jurisdiction has their own timeline of when you need to obtain the permit. Some are 30 days, some are 60 days, some are 6 months. So begin those relationships now. One question that, James, another question that came up about the hiking app. Do you have any metrics on how many people accessed it?
That was the biggest challenge, honestly, with it, because it was free, and the business wants to make money, which of course I understand. They have a gated sort of next level that you can buy because it was COVID, and we slashed our budget literally in half last year. We were like, so we kind of went without metrics on that. I was disappointed that was something that we went without, but it was. We asked them for some in the back end, and they gave us a bunch of data that we just couldn't even comprehend. It was just kind of like not clear. So anyway, that's a shame. There's also other apps out there. I think if you look at Arts Fringe too, or Philly Fringe, they presented something in the fall that was similar, and it was more bespoke. So I would check on what they presented in the fall. There's a tech company out of Toronto, I believe, that worked specifically with them to create these hikes, and I think that what they did was really wonderful. So if you're looking and have a little bit of money to hire a company to do that would be a little bit more tailored towards something that you're working on, it seemed like a really great experience as well.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And I know that there are a lot of local app producers, and here in Harlem, there's a Silicon Harlem that provides tech support for a range of artists, educational activities. They provided laptops for students. So again, partnerships. So could you guys, in our last remaining time that we have, talk a little bit about some of the foundational discoveries that you've had, and if you will extend those beyond this pandemic? So we're not going back, we're going forward. So what does 22 and 23 look like for you, if you can forecast a bit from this time that we're in now, and what you've discovered? What is some of your learning and discoveries now? Does that make sense?
One of the big changes we've faced is we're known as an presenter of international music, and international tours are not happening. Who knows when they will happen again? I really do look forward to working with international artists, but I have been fundamentally changed by the ability to tell Miami stories on an international level, and recognizing that virtual programming will continue to be a part of, it will be a tool in our toolbox in perpetuity, I hope. The ability to collaborate internationally is now boundless. The ability to, like I said, share our unique local voices and elevate our local voices will continue to be a big part of what we do, even as we resume, the traditional presenter model in the future. It's been a blessing to really get to know some of our local artists even better.
And have you monetized any of your streaming?
Our streaming has mostly been free. We pay all our artists, always, even children, even the kids in our youth music festival. We also have opened up the digital tip jar. I haven't cracked that nut of monetizing the stream. I'm seeing it more as a marketing tool and as a platform for collaboration.
And do you plan to in the future, or you want to stay with it being a marketing tool, which is very important as well?
I don't see it becoming a big monetization. One never knows what happens tomorrow, though. That we have all become much more flexible, and Plan B and Plan C is always in the works. But yeah, I look forward to continuing to use virtual programming as an outreach opportunity.
Yeah, could be interesting to think about how artists can collaborate in the virtual space as well, internationally in different geographic locations. I know that, you know, what your broadband and your cable capacity has a lot to do with that, but I'd be interested to know how we're expanding to incorporate our international partners during this time and beyond. So James, what are some of the learnings that you have that you want to adopt and keep forward, keep moving forward, or anything that you've discovered that was a failure that you want to throw out the window?
Failure that we well, we don't ever want to take a yoga class and put it online again. We don't have a desire to try and do our kids' activity. There's other organizations that are doing that, and they're either doing that better than us or doing it in a way that would be helpful. So we definitely wanted to move away from that. But something that you talked about, I think, as far as relationships with the city, with municipalities and places like that. But the one thing that's really been remarkable this year is we have a board member. I was talking about the city of Ypsilanti, which is adjacent to Ann Arbor, and more economically depressed and more diverse, and just like an audience that we've been trying to reach for a few years now. And we had this sort of, we have a community engagement committee that was really centered around examining our barriers to inclusion. And one of the things that we figured out before COVID happened was we were like, well, how do we get people to come to the festival? It's free, it's ungated, it's, you know, all of these things. And what became really clear to us is that we need to go to them. And you know, if we want to, so this season is all about sort of that opportunity to have these 10 concerts in these 3 different municipalities in Ypsilanti and the 2 townships adjacent to them. And then the other part of it is these affordable housing locations. We're reaching out to communities that we might not typically be reaching out to as well here in Ann Arbor. And I'm just really looking forward to the idea that in 2022 and beyond, when we come back and we have our big Top of the Park event with 80,000 people that come through over 21 days, that we're still going to have maybe 4 to 6 of these satellite events. We were going to do that last year in Ypsilanti with the circus piece when everything got canceled. So that was already on the roadmap. It's just sort of like, it's blown up and gotten really like scalable very quick, which was really, I'm super excited about this year, and about the idea of reaching new audience, exposing people to music that they might not normally experience, and then in the future, bringing international artists that we bring, whether it's circus or dance or theater, to people who might not normally see it. So that's really exciting.
So it sounds like this has provided an opportunity to reach a community that you wanted to reach, that gives you an expanded diversity and inclusion, looking at your communities in a broader, deeper way. So this provided that opportunity. So that's fantastic. Robin, what are some of this organization is brand new. It's an experiment. Do you see this as moving into 22 and 23 as well, as other venues are able to open up? Will there still be a need for artists and also small arts organizations to use the streets and plazas for performing arts?
You know, I mean, yes, of course, I never thought this was a stopgap. You know, this is what I've been doing anyway. I've been doing outdoor programming and producing, and not always just in a set, you know, venue, but on streets and plazas and things like that. And I think that, you know, there's a big push here in our city, you know, to really make streets more livable, and for me, you know, as a person who's totally in arts 100%, that's my focus, that the arts have to be part of that and are part of the ecosystem, and it's not just a temporary stopgap. And I'm kind of sad a little bit that some of the more major institutions are not thinking along those terms. And, you know, I think in doing something like this going forward, yes, I could see this happening. In fact, we're working with an organization called Open Plans, which is a civic organization that's all about urban planning, and they want us to look at this program and report back on them about what's working and not working and how it could be made better. I think, yes, so I'm looking at this as not a temporary fix, but as really something that's going to be an ongoing program, but then done in a much more a strategic way, which is that, work with the arts organizations first, find out what streets they want and where we could do this so that it's really done in a very professional way. A lot of the streets are just streets, and there's no connection to arts groups. So I think that's something that we should work toward, how to take what's outside, what's inside outside. And also really, again, as we keep talking about partnerships, yes, the partnering up, that the arts is always, and artists and performance is always part of everything else. So all the other outdoor programs, but yes, to make permanent open culture streets is something that I'm hopefully working toward, and that this is another alternative, just like the digital work. I don't think that should stop. Everyone here has been talking about how their audiences have grown because of access. Those stories that you hear about the seniors who never went out and now they're seeing theater. It's the same thing with this. With doing things locally. There's a big push. There's a big push by the mayor of Paris, what he's calling the 15-minute city, where everything you want is in 15-minute bike ride of where you live. And I think New York City has, I can speak for New York, right? It's always been about the destination. You go to that destination, you go to that place. But I think more and more neighborhoods are becoming their own destinations, and there's this, there are artists living everywhere, and there are communities who also have their own artists. And how do we focus on that as well? And it's about equity as well. So
can I just say something that Robin, just really quick? I lived in New York City for 25 years, and I also presented on the streets with a lot of different, with digital work and things like that. And then I presented here outdoors for 3 years now. And it doesn't matter where you are. I don't know who's on the call, but if you're thinking about presenting outdoors, or why you might want to present outdoors, or what's the reason, aside from, hey, there's a pandemic and I can't do anything inside. It's not just about bringing these artists to these locations in these specific spots and having them respond to the location, or having them framed by trees or something like that. That's really wonderful and that's really exciting. But what ends up happening is audience members invariably come to me and say, I've never seen this space like this. I've never been here. I've seen this space in a different way than I saw it before. I think that's what you were saying a little bit, Robin, is that you have a different relationship with the city, or with the streets, or with the park, or whatever the location is. And I think that that's what's really remarkable about presenting outdoors for me.
Yeah, and
Thank you. That's in our short time that we have, which we have about 3 minutes, I think. James, you answered the final question. We talked about just a range of opportunities and possibilities for presenting outdoors. What I hope that we can get for those that have never presented outdoors and that might still have some cold feet about it, why should they consider it beyond a pandemic? So what you said, hit it on the head. Your audience is seeing the venue in a different space, seeing their community through a different lens. So if Laura and Robin, if you want to add to that, for anyone who has never presented outdoors, what's your advice?
James, you're a hard act to follow. You take what's in my heart and you say it in better words. There's a joy to presenting outdoors, that there is an unpredictability. There's a relationship you develop with the natural world, with your city, with your community, that cannot be replicated indoors. And that's not to say I don't love going to shows indoors and working indoors and having everything be perfect. But yes, there is a fluidity and an innovation that yes, go for it. Develop a thick skin. Yes, it might rain. Bring a poncho. But working outdoors is a blessing. It's a joy, and I wouldn't give it up for it. I wouldn't go back inside for anything.
Thank you, Robin.
I think it's a connector, you know, you're connecting, and we're all about connecting, aren't we? That's what I think why we do what we do. We're connecting. Even those, you know, big festivals like Summer Stage where you have to enter a space, it's still, you're connecting all these people together. And when you're doing it in a street or in a plaza, like, yeah, you're even more so, you don't know what's going to happen, who's going to walk by, what are the sounds, and you really are part of your community, I think, and there's something special and unique about it, you know, and again, on that local level, you know, I mean, I haven't done this yet, you know, that, I mean, yeah, this dancer, you know, that I showed in Daniel, I mean, he toured with Lamone all over the world for 10 years, but here he is dancing in the street in the Bronx, in his community. What an incredible thing, you know, so happy to do it. And is ready to do it anytime, because he's from there, he lives there, you know, and so there's many, it's all okay.
And we all know that there are certain segments of our community that have a challenge crossing the threshold of a venue. So this is an opportunity to expand your audience base, to introduce your artists and your vision for your organization to new audiences that, for whatever reason, maybe they feel like they don't have the right outfit to wear. I mean, there's a lot of barriers to why audiences don't go inside. So we see this as a great opportunity to enjoy and engage with audiences in open spaces, whether that's a park, a plaza, a beautiful venue that has that upside down mushroom thingy that Laura has in her venue that's gorgeous.
It's also photovoltaic. It generates electricity for the lighting.
Really?
Yes, I'm so excited about our canopy. I can't even.
It's so gorgeous. And James is finding new ways to connect with audiences that he that may not cross the Ypsilanti. I know I'm pronouncing it terribly.
Ypsilanti.
Right, Ypsilanti. That audience, that community, it may be one that wouldn't have crossed the threshold. So now by bringing art and culture to them, you're making that connection.
If I could say one last really quick thing, Monique, you know, we all talk about, I think, you know, how the arts is a healer and an economic driver and all those catchphrases that we use in our grants and all. And when you're on the street, you really see that. When you're on the street, you see that, because you are there with those people, as you were saying. I'm repeating the same thing, but you really can see that happens.
Yeah. Thank you all, Laura, Robin, and James, for bringing your expertise, your vision, your experience, your challenges, all of that, because it's all valuable. And it's been a pleasure to speak with you all. And I will now turn it back over to Mario and Krista.
Thank you so much, Monique. And I just want to thank Mario and the Outdoor Working Group, our partner and co-host, in bringing this amazing panel together. Thank you so much, Laura, James, and Robin, for sharing your insights, and Monique, such a wonderful job moderating. Thank you for illuminating so many of these points. And thanks to all of you who joined us. The recording will be available on our website soon. Please look out for a survey on today's session so we can learn more about what we can do in the future that might be valuable and important for you. You can find a list of our upcoming events on the APAP website at www.apap365.org. And we have 2 events coming up that you see on the screen. Tomorrow, we are doing the first session in a series on building ethical and equitable partnerships, and that will be at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And then next week, we have a sponsored innovation session focusing on the lessons from the digital pivot. How did we do? What's next? Thank you so much again for joining us, and we hope you will join us again. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.